Good morning, y'all. Taylor here with y'all 106.7. Today we're joined by country music singer, songwriter, Mr. Wade Hayes. Welcome back to y'all, I should say.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me in.
Thank you for being here. Now, you've been here before. You met with Ron. How long ago is that now?
It's been almost a year.
Okay.
We had come out with a new album called Old Country Still Rocks, and I came in to kind of give that a shout and really enjoyed my time here. I enjoy your station very much.
Thank you very much. We enjoy your music. We play a ton of Wade Hayes.
All right. That's what I like to hear.
Old Country Still Rocks is like the theme because, you know, we play 80s, 90s, early 2000s. The storytelling aspect of it, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Musicianship and songwriting was just stellar in that period. And it was just like the perfect storm of pickers and writers came together and made this incredible generation of music.
How did you decide what songs to put on that album? Because there's so many great ones that I love. You got Twitty on there, you know, Whitley, Willie.
You know, I look back on it, and I probably would have done things differently. Looking back on it, but hindsight is always 20/20. That is no truer statement has ever been. But I was trying to, in the beginning, do songs from artists that influenced me, and not necessarily big hits, and I was trying to do some more obscure stuff, but still cover the artist. And then towards the end of the project, I thought, gosh, maybe I should be doing some more of the big hits, you know. But I could have honestly done 4 or 5 albums. And because there were people that I left off of that were big influences on me, that like Don Williams and Gene Watson and Gary Stewart was a huge influence on me. And I wish I would have done some of their music, but we ended up with some stuff that, you know, the huge guys that influenced me on
Maybe we could get a volume 2 and we can make those other ones on there.
I could do a ton of them. I loved that era of music so much, and it was just, that's what I wanted to do. When I heard people like Waylon and Merle, they were just incredible. Such strong artists and identifiable voices and great music. And it meant a lot to me as a kid.
Sometimes I feel like, too, like the album cuts are the best cuts, or the songs that aren't like the main, you know, radio hits. Those are some of the best songs.
Absolutely. There are a few albums from my childhood that you could listen to front to back and just not skip a tune. And Redheaded Stranger, Willie Nelson, is one of the greatest albums ever. I think Poncho and Lefty is one of the best albums ever made.
So that's who you grew up listening to, would you say?
Yeah, the folks on this album, even, you know, Bob Wills' music, swing music, was a big influence on me. So I loved it.
What I found interesting about your story, because you grew up playing music with your dad.
Yeah.
Did y'all move to Nashville and then you moved back to Oklahoma?
As a kid, my dad had a kind of a record deal on an independent label. And they were all very excited about it, and in the beginning had some money behind him. So he packed the family up and moved us here. And it didn't work out for him. I think the money dried up in that situation, and we ended up having to go back to Oklahoma, and it was a very difficult time in our lives. But, you know, the seed had been planted in me, and music was such a driving force back then for me.
You had that fire. You just couldn't turn it off.
I couldn't help it. You know, I moved here. I had about $450 in my pocket, and all of my personal belongings, which wasn't much, in the bed of my pickup. And I thought, you know, I could sleep in my truck if I needed to, but I got work immediately playing lead guitar for other artists. And that was an interesting thing. Am I talking too much?
No, we love it.
Well, there's a fellow named Johnny Lee, and he was one of my mentors and a dear friend. And that fellow meant a lot to me. One of the first, or was the first big job I had when I moved here, was playing lead guitar for him. And he was really, really good to me. I don't know why he liked me. I was just a hayseed. I didn't know anything about anything, but he and I really hit it off. Yeah. And he really kept me out of a lot of trouble. In the music business, he got me into a lot of trouble too, but that's just some stories I won't share. But
just like a big brother would do.
Yeah. And he was so good to me. And first time I ever played the Opry was with him. First time I ever rode a tour bus was with him. So that happened very quickly. And then I got a writing deal. I hadn't been here very long at all, and ended up writing a couple of #1 songs with my other mentor, Chick Raines.
Mm-hmm.
And things just started going very, very quickly.
So, when you were writing, at what point did we sign the record deal and say we're going to put out this first album? Because Old Enough to Know Better went right to number one for you, your first release.
It was, really, like I was saying, it went so quickly. Right after I got the writing deal, I got the record deal. I walked into Sony, and we had written Old Enough to Know Better and I'm Still Dancing with You very quickly. And I walked into Sony Publishing and played for them and, played them 2 number 1 songs and got a deal. And about 3 months after that, got a record deal. So with Don Cook, who was one of the heads at Sony ATV Tree back then.
How was it? Like, did you find it hard to, network? Because you found someone who was kind of like your mentor or your best friend there. When you first came to town, did you feel like an outsider, or do you feel like people were kind of welcoming to you?
They were very welcoming. I've always felt like an outsider. I'm very awkward socially. And
aren't we all?
Yeah, that is the toughest thing for me. And the people that are the life of the party and are very good in social situations seem to do really well. Mm-hmm. And that is where I'm lacking heavily. Is that area. So that was difficult. But people like Don Cook and Chick Raines and some of the great writers, Jim McBride was wonderful to me. Mm-hmm. They were so good to me and patient, and they're the reasons that I got to do what I got to do.
Well, you have that kind of like outlaw country to you. You kind of have like an attitude in some of your songs. Yeah. So that personality comes out in your music.
But back then, that's I knew for sure who I was musically. Mm-hmm. And that song, Old Enough to Know Better, that's true to life stuff. I grew up, my dad was a contractor, so I grew up building houses with him. And when I moved to Nashville, that's the first thing I did was get a job building houses. And immediately after that, got a job playing guitar for Johnny Lee. So Johnny would get wound up and want to play all night long, literally. Yeah. And then we still had to be at work the next morning swinging a hammer. So that's kind of where that tune came from.
I love that. Yeah. That's so great. So tell me about what's coming up for you, because you have a big show at Chiefs on Broadway.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
October 17th at Neon Steeple. There is still time to get tickets at Chiefs on Broadway. You said you've never played there before.
I haven't, but I've really heard some good things about it and looking forward to it. I don't get to play Nashville very much. We travel all over the United States, but I don't get to play Nashville very much. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I've heard great things about it. Mm-hmm. And we'll be doing new songs, stuff off the new album, and new stuff that I've written. I still continue to write songs. That's something I can't help. It's kind of my therapy. And I read books and write songs, and that's a big part of my day.
It's so therapeutic.
Yeah, it really is. I enjoy that process. When I was younger, I really didn't have much to say except that, the rebel, I'm young. But now that I've gotten older and got to experience a lot more, I find the writing is much more enjoyable. Mm-hmm. I would rather do that than just about anything. It's very satisfying to sit down and start an idea, take something out of thin air and turn it into something almost tangible. It's very satisfying. I enjoy the process.
That also can impact so many other people's lives too.
Yeah. I really, really enjoy my job now. When I was younger, it was a lot of pressure and a lot of going and just so much to it. But I enjoy all of it so much more now. I very much love to see people, if you can bring back a memory or see them dancing or see them shed a tear because they identify with what you're saying, it means a lot to me. Yeah.
And now you can just make the music you want to make. You're not trying to fit a mold. You're not trying to be mainstream. You can just be authentic to who you are as an artist.
Yeah. My writing has changed a lot as I've gotten older, and I write more about, subjects that are a little heavier and a little more meaning to me. So.
Well, I think that is beautiful, and old country still rocks.
It does.
We love it. But you're in the Oklahoma Country Music Hall of Fame, which is huge. Congratulations!
Yeah. Thank you very much. I was very, very proud of that.
I'm curious, when you moved to Nashville and you got that number 1 song, and then now you're in the Hall of Fame. What would your dad say, or what did he say when you started having all this success?
He was proud. We got to do a lot of stuff together when he was still with us, and he got to see me in stadiums, and we were on tour with Brooks and Dunn for a couple of years, and with Alan Jackson for about a year, and my first big tour was with Tracy Lawrence.
I love Tracy.
Yeah, and he got to see a lot of that, got to experience that excitement with me, and it was a big deal to all of us.
That's so wonderful, because you can share the gift of music, and I feel like, that had to have been hard coming to Nashville, then going back to Oklahoma, and then to see his son doing so well. It probably was just a really like full circle moment for your family.
I hope that it was.
Yeah,
I hope it was.
I love that. Tracy Lawrence actually gave me my first guitar, which is so random, but from back in the day. I still don't play it. Cool. I just look at it, but I'm like, I still have it. So
he was really good to me in the beginning. That was a good time, a good memory.
Awesome. So what's next for you? You said you're writing. We've got this show at, Chiefs on Broadway. Are we going to hit the road anymore this year? I know the holidays are coming up.
We are winding down for this year. We've got a few more dates left. I think 5 dates left for the year, and probably start recording a new record I'm working on. Just I've got to do something with these songs I'm writing, so I'll record them every year or two, and hopefully use it as a flyer for folks to come out and see me live, because that's what we love to do.
I love it. How often are you bringing in co-writers?
I typically write by myself these days.
Sometimes it's
I enjoy
easier,
it,
right?
and I can do it at my leisure, so I don't have. I've never really been good at, okay, here's a time to sit down and be creative right now. They come to me when they come to me. I was telling the folks in the lobby, we've got a little farm out east of town, and when I'm bush hogging, I listen to you guys specifically. That's it, period. And if I'm not listening to you, I'm writing a song, and that's my time to do that. And I find that's, most fruitful when I'm alone doing it like that.
How often are you listening to y'all and you hear a Wade Hayes song come on and you're like,
hey,
turn it up?
Yes, I've heard it several times, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate you making the great music. Something that I do want to touch on really quick that's such a huge part of your story.
Yeah.
You were diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And you did release a song, Go Live Your Life, which is so inspiring. Go chase your dreams.
Yeah.
I would love to know how that affected you creatively.
It did, like we were talking about earlier, in those life experiences, that was a big one. Probably the biggest that's changed me and changed the songs that I write. But that was no small thing. In 2011, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, which stage 4 just means it's spread throughout your body. And I had it bad and was not expected to live. I was actually, 2 different hospitals tried to put me in comfort care. I had it that bad. And I, fortunately, through a mutual friend of all of ours, Kix Brooks, I met a man named Dr. Jordan Berlin at Vanderbilt, and he thought he saw a way. And originally, Vanderbilt, from what I hear, wanted to put me on comfort care as well. And he thought he saw a way, and he actually lobbied to try and do surgery and try to fight it. So to try to shorten it up a little bit, I was in and out of the hospital for about 3 years, and lost count of surgeries and procedures I've had and chemotherapy and all that business. But the good news is, I had a 5% chance at best of living, and I'm still here. And that was original diagnosis with 2011. So, I will tell anybody, I thank God in the name of Jesus that I'm still around. He made it painfully clear that He's the reason I'm still around. So
He's not done with you yet.
Well, I'm hoping to figure out why I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still, trying to find my way just like everybody else is.
And your story's so powerful. I'm sure that sharing that is hard, but it probably helps a lot of people as well.
Well, the reason I do share it so willingly is because one of the biggest things that helped me is I had met a man who was diagnosed similar to me, and he was still alive when everybody else around me was not doing very well. I met that guy and got to talk to him and saw that it could be done, and it was a game changer. It was a game changer. So I was ready to put my head down and fight. And that's the reason I share, because that one man made such a big difference in my life.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, it really is.
Were you not feeling well, if you don't mind me asking, how you found it initially?
I was feeling really rough and just had stomach issues and some bleeding. And I was, originally told by a doctor that I was too young to have cancer. You're just working out too hard. That's what's doing this. And so finally, the day that decided what was going on, I was getting ready to fly to Houston to do a show. And I had this excruciating pain. I mean, doubled over and couldn't straighten up. And like the, okie that I am, I just took some aspirins and went to bed and tried to get over it, and knew that something was wrong. And so when I got back, I went to the doctor, and they recommended a colonoscopy. And that's when they found a tumor about the size of an orange in my large intestine. And then realized that it had spread all over. Most of my liver, diaphragm, lymph nodes. I forget where else. But
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
And I'm sure your whole life just upside down, your priorities, everything that you thought was important just completely changes.
It was a huge deal, a huge life-changing experience. But I can look back on that situation, and as bad as it was, I can see some positive that came out of it. And I don't know that I'm thankful that it happened, but I can see why it needed to happen.
Thankful that you came through it.
Yeah.
Well, go live your life. That was inspired by something your doctor told you? Yes.
Dr. Berlin, like I'd mentioned earlier, we've become friends now, and I just love the guy. He is exactly how everybody should be, in my opinion. I meet a lot of people in the entertainment industry who think a lot of themselves, and we're just singers, And I don't know why people develop not all, but some develop an elevated opinion of themselves. But Dr. Berlin is the most humble guy you'll ever meet, and he is literally saving people's lives. And he can be that way. So I think I can learn from that.
Yeah, I think we all can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something I always like to ask, a question I like to end on is, I'm sure you have a lot. What advice would you give your younger self or someone who's moving to Nashville to pursue music, something that you've really learned along the way?
This was told to me when I first moved here, and I didn't get it at the time, but I can certainly say this with most certainty. Writing songs is where it's at. You need to learn. If you can't, try to figure out how to. That's how you separate yourself. Because I can promise you, there are 1,000 guys in Nashville that can sing very well, that can play guitar very well. So you got to figure out how you're going to set yourself apart, and you got to come up with a song, and that's where it's at. Unless, some people are fortunate and they just sing that great that they can get by on that. But let me tell you, you cannot swing a dead cat without hitting somebody great here. So songwriting is where it's at.
It's good. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And speaking of writing, we cannot wait for this new album that you're working on. Whenever it's going to drop, I don't know. We're anxiously waiting. Old Country Still Rocks.
Yeah.
We want to hear part 2.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Chiefs on Broadway, Wade Hayes, October 17th. Be sure to check him out at Neon Steeple. And Wade, the best way to keep up with you, wadehayes.com.
That is the best way. All the social media outlets and wadehayes.com.
Yeah, and on social media, it is at Wade Hayes Official.
Yeah, so, that's it.
Thank you for hanging out with us at Y'all.
Thank you, Taylor.